Hey, it's New Thought Talk. I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center, located in Fresno, California. Fresno, the heart of the Central Valley, the heart of the state of California. It is a great day. It's a great day to be here. It's a great day to have you here with us. Thank you for being here. Hope that what we provide today is informative and gives you some things to think about and possibly tools that you can put into practice for your own personal spiritual growth, increasing your livingness as you go through this life, which is our purpose for being here, understanding the truth of who you are, expressing that truth at greater and higher degrees, and realizing how the divine principle, that which we call God, is so intimately and intensely vested and invested as you in this life, this thing called life. And that's what we've been talking about the last couple weeks, this thing called life. One life. That life is God. That life is perfect. That life is our life now. And we've covered various things. My approach to it during these last couple of weeks has been to look at this concept of life not from a spiritual perspective, although there's a lot to be said there, but to look at life as something that is as real as energy, as electricity, as light, as any other form of energy, gravity, whatever in our life. We accept those things as just being a normal part of our day-to-day life experience. Have you ever thought about accepting this thing called life, not just on a spiritual level, but as a normal part of your daily life experience and what that means. And so that's what we've been talking about, this thing called life. It's an amazing thing. And it's a thing that by its very definition, as we've covered in previous shows regarding this, by its very definition, we are all part of that same one life. All that is that one life expressing itself. All that is, you and I. You know, we talked about how when we approach this thing called life with an understanding that it was an understanding that has been brought to the world in many different ways in many different times, but this fellow that we call the master teacher, Jesus, probably said it the best. And when he talked about the kingdom of heaven to be found within, I and my Father are one, but he capped it with these two, what he called the two laws on which hangs all the laws and the prophet, that we love God with all that we are, and we love our neighbor as ourselves. And I'm kind of paraphrasing, but that's pretty much exactly what he said. And as I have said in the past, when we realize that God is all that is, then who and what we are as individual beings, in truth and reality, we are individualized expression of the divine principle, of God as ourself. So when he's telling us to love God with all that we are, he's also telling us to love ourselves with all that we are. And you know, loving ourselves is a very important principle that oftentimes we overlook, oftentimes we live at a deficit with, because we grew up and people have told us for various reasons that we are less than. And you know, we know ourselves more intimately than anybody else knows us. And we know our limitations. We know where we struggle. We know what it is in our life that could be improved, if you will. You love yourself with all that you are. That was the commandment. So whatever you have on your list of deficits, let it go. Let it go. You are an expression of the divine principle of God as you, that you may live this life and live it more abundantly, live it at a greater and higher degree of harmony, of peace, of happiness, that you shall not go through life living in fear, worry, doubt, limitation, unhappiness. The list goes on and on and on. And so many people have their own copy of that list in their own personalized, expression of it. We got to let it go. We got to let it go, because God is not limited in any way. God is not a deficit in any way. God is not lacking in any way. And if you realize that about God, and if you realize that you are an individualized expression of God right in this place, this point, this time, wherever you are, wherever that is, you can't be less than. So it's time to redefine ourselves. And that's part of what our spiritual journey is about. But the second part of that he said is that we are to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. Well, we just covered the love ourselves part of it. To love our neighbors as we love ourselves. You know, that can be difficult. It can be difficult, but it's also very doable when you set your mind to doing it. And when we talk about loving our neighbors, that's not something that only runs to the border of our property, of our neighborhood, of our street, of our city, of our country. No matter who is walking on the face of this earth, even if they're as far away as they can get from where we are at physically, they are still our neighbor. It's an amazing thing. There's one life. There's one life. So as life expresses as every single individual being on the face of the earth, we're all neighbors. We're all sisters. We're all brothers. We're all family. And just like any family, sometimes we have members in our family that, they can rankle us a little bit. But that's about as far as we should let it go. We can realize that they are who they are, and we can love them, and we can establish boundaries, and I've talked about this. Boundaries are good. But whatever exists on the other side of that boundary is still part of our family, is still our neighbor that we love. And as we do that, we empower ourselves, we grow ourselves. And surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, as we do that, we find very often whoever those individuals are that are the others, whatever that other is, as we learn to express love, our boundaries can sometimes kind of disappear. We can realize there's differences, but we can see God beyond the differences. We can see principle beyond the differences, and we can see that which we love. It's an amazing thing. That's part of our journey. The world today, expression-wise, it's pretty tough, isn't it? You know, all you have to do is catch the evening news or the online news or the neighbor or the work news or wherever it's at. And boy, there's just so much chaos going on and so much vitriol and people pointing fingers, you know. And I'm just talking about the local city council. You get beyond that, it gets really bizarre and crazy, doesn't it? But we don't have to own that as something that we own. We can recognize it as an expression that is so limited in its energy, so limited in its concept, that once we learn to see it in those terms, we can essentially neuter it. We can pull the effect out of it. And in its place, we can bring love and compassion and joy and harmony. When Ernest Holmes wrote the Science of Mind book in 1938, the world was on the verge of the Second World War. And he knew that. Most everybody did, you know. They saw the terrible things going on in the world. And yet he brought this book to publication that had a promise carried within the pages that if you embody what it is that he was teaching, spirituality as what he called a scientific understanding, that you put these principles into practice in your day-to-day life experience. And you know, he didn't demand in his book or at any other time that you necessarily have to give up any of the personal beliefs that you grew up with, if you happen to belong to a specific sect or theology or religious, whatever. What he said was put these principles into practice. And basically, if you looked at the principles that he taught, if you looked at the principles that you can put into practice in your life, there was nothing there that limited you from hanging in with wherever it is that you wanted to be, you know, dogmatically, spiritually, or whatever. A lot of times people tend to turn away from new thought, from science, mind, and spirit, because they believe that, you know, well, it's just another religion. Well, truth be told, it wasn't a religion. It was a teaching, a spiritual teaching, that brought the idea, the concept of healing into the world, of relationship with the divine into the world, such that with the realization that we are God expressed as us, that we are sons and daughters of the divine, that we are the inheritor of all of God's good, and what that can mean. I'm going to take our first break, and we'll pick that up when we come back from there.
With Organic Pastures Raw Milk, you're getting a product that has been meticulously managed from grass to glass. From our pastures to our dairy, creamery, and distribution, we work hard to produce a product that is safe and clean for you.
Got lactose intolerance or dairy allergies? Discover delicious raw milk and discover dairy the way it's supposed to be. We provide tours and would love to see you. Come visit the cows, watch the milking, the cheese being made, and learn all about raw milk. We're just 20 miles south and west of Fresno, California. Call to schedule a tour at 559-846-9732.
The Saga of Bridget and Amanda by Carol Love Forbes brings to life the struggles of historical women in early America. Find the Saga of Bridget and Amanda on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and order your copy today.
You enter this door with expired tags. Beyond is another dimension, a dimension of regulations, a dimension of long waits. You have reached the registration zone. What looks like an ordinary shop is actually Mitchell Smog, located in the heart of the Tower District, a few minutes from the DMV. Mitchell Smog offers your vehicle a STAR-certified smog inspection. So remember Mitchell Smog when you need to pass through the registration zone.
Christy Majors is your local real estate connection. With a solid, hard-working team, traditional listings, short sales, probate listings, and foreclosures are treated in a personal and caring way and close in a timely fashion. Since 2009, Team Majors has closed more than $75 million worth of homes all over California. Reliable and trustworthy, Christy and her team will go the extra mile for every client, whether selling or buying a home. So give Team Majors a call at 559-464-5606 or visit teammajors.com.
After a tough day at the track, cleaning up can be a time-consuming task. That's why we use Extreme Cleaner, the non-toxic, biodegradable, multi-purpose cleaner and degreaser. Extreme Cleaner cuts through even the toughest of grease and grime. Fast. Great for cleaning tools and work surfaces. Extreme Cleaner. Tough on grime, safe on the environment. Visit extremecleaner.com to find a retailer near you.
When you experience flooding in your home, you need to call Clean Master Emergency Flood Service at 559-213-9430. After soaking in water for only 45 minutes, carpet starts to come apart. Clean Master Emergency Flood Service can help, and not just with carpet repair. They also offer carpet cleaning, upholstery cleaning, carpet installation, and more. Call Clean Master Emergency Flood Service, and they'll be there in 60 minutes. Call 559-213-9430. Doctor in Sukasa allows you to connect with your doctor when you need a quick treatment. Avoid a trip to a medical clinic or emergency room and connect by video with your doctor from your home, work, or anywhere. Just go to drinsukasa.com on your phone, tablet, or computer. Dr. in Sukasa provides quality care that is convenient, bilingual, and affordable, so you are never left without access to health care. Visit drinsukasa.com today. Pour yourself a glass of Crybaby wine available at the market and Sam's Italian Deli. And remember to ask for Crybaby wine at your favorite restaurant. Connect with Dr. Alan Hedberg. Watch Doctor Teach Me to Parent on CentralValleyTalk.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Listen to The Psychology Report anytime at thepsychologyreport.buzzsprout.com. Visit booksbyhedberg.com and order a book for your personal growth. And join the conversation on twitter.com/Alan G. Hedberg.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I am your host, the Reverend Steve Walling. This thing called life, this one life, expressing as all that we experience, all that we express, always coming at us, but always with us. The tools in our spiritual toolbox are as infinite as the divine principle itself. But the catch to that is it's done unto us as we believe. Where are we at in our belief today? Very easy to determine. You look at where we're at in our experience of life today. It's an amazing thing that we can be at a very high level of life expression, whether it be as a competitive athlete, whether it be as a successful business person, a successful family person, a person who's successful in their relationship. No matter where we're at, there's an inner urge to move beyond. And it's not, that urge is not based in like a selfish principle, but it's based on the life principle itself, seeking to bring more livingness into our life. And I think I talked about this last week, but the idea of when you set out to do something, you set a goal and you achieve that goal, it's an amazing feeling. And people oftentimes mistake that with, that's what happiness is all about. But if you stop and reflect upon this, you begin to realize that the real joy came during the process of achieving that goal. Once we achieve the goal, it's kind of like we've arrived. But having arrived at a certain place, where's the next step? Where are we going to go? What are we going to do now? Because that urge within us seeks to do that. And I talked about the perfection, understanding the perfection of the divine principle as it expresses, and understanding that how we don't experience that perfection in our day-to-day life experience. Because if we did, if everything was perfect in your life, as often as people think, if only my life was totally perfect, right? Where would you go? What would you do? Where would be the excitement? Where would be the gusto? Where would be the energy to succeed, to move beyond? Where would be that point in time where you do that happy dance once you've completed something, however you do that particular happy dance for yourself? You see, this is partially what our life journey is about, is moving beyond, transcending. And it really starts when we first come into the world. First learning how to use our arms, our legs, our hands, understanding, learning language, moving beyond that. And we don't think of life in those terms, because of course we're adults, right? We don't think about that. And yet, how significant it is when we begin to understand the role that played in moving us forward into this life. Somewhere along the way, we've lost that to a certain extent. We get focused with life, with regimentation, with rules and limitations and beliefs and all sorts of things that kind of constrain us. And yet, we were created. We were created as creating beings. We have the divine principle within us, that we were given the power to make choices, to use thought, and through thought to put the law into practice, through putting the law into practice to seeing demonstrations, manifestations play out in our life. Using the law constructively in a constructive way. But we don't learn that. So oftentimes, because the law is always constructive, we use it in a destructive way. So you could kind of say, like I said last time, we're using the law constructively in a destructive way, and we reap the rewards of that. Now, you may not want to think of them as rewards. You can talk about cause and effect. It doesn't make any difference. When we reorient ourselves in consciousness, in our mind, a realization of the truth of what we are, in that self-realization, we also begin to realize the truth of what the divine, what God is. Principle, God, life, first cause, source, and we've got all these different names for the same thing. Whatever you call it, it's still just one. One God, one life, one source, one principle, and it expresses as us, through us. So, partially, when Ernest Holmes was teaching, he wasn't teaching a religion. He was teaching people, teaching humanity how to, what he called scientifically, put into practice our innate inner power so that we could express God, express principle at higher and greater degrees, or to reorient ourselves within principle if we were suffering under any limiting condition. And as we did that as individuals, it affects those around us, and through that, the world wide as a whole. This was such a revolutionary thought early on in the 20th century. New Thought grew in many different ways. And whatever your particular flavor of New Thought is, it's perfect for you. Ultimately, what we're looking at is putting principle into practice in our life and having an intention and an expectation to see that demonstration. Taking nothing from anybody, knowing that God in its infiniteness, first cause in its infiniteness, life in its infiniteness, is infinitely abundant. That in order for each and every individual to express life and to express it greater, more abundantly, more successfully, more incredibly, more harmoniously, more beautifully, more in love, it's available to each and every one of us. There's no one that has to do without. That was the teaching. That is the teaching. We kind of got waylaid for various reasons. It's not important. We're still here. The tools are still here. The law is still here. The principle is still here. And you are still here. And you can take, you can learn, you can apply, and you can see the demonstration, the manifestation, and you can reap that reward as you should. It is your birthright. It is your gift from God to you as a child of God, and it's there, just waiting for kind of like when the prodigal son returned home, and his father turned towards and waiting for us to make that turn, waiting for us to accept more fully the truth of who we are. And like I said, in doing so, we don't have to give up anything if we choose not to. It became, in the early days, became so popular that ultimately there was an organization that sprung up around what Dr. Holmes taught, and it was called religious science, based on the science of mind, based on the book. And it's still here today. The name for today as an organization is Centers for Spiritual Living. It's available. It's available to you. They have centers throughout everywhere. You can look them up. You can learn. You can take lessons. You can get the books. There's a series of 48 home study courses that you can get from Dr. Holmes, or from Divorce, or from the CSL organization. You can get them on Amazon, so that you can, no matter where you're at, you can begin to study and understand and put these principles into practice in your life. It's an incredible journey. It's an incredible gift that Dr. Holmes gave to the world. I remember reading in more than one place where people referenced Ernest Holmes as one of the greatest mystics of the 20th century, and without a doubt, he's right up there, if not at the very top. What he brought into the world, it's still here. It got muted because people got wound up and refocused in other areas. A lot of what we taught ended up in so-called mainstream, and it's not that it dilutes what we taught, but it makes what we teach more mundane, if you will, to someone that doesn't fully understand. It's time today for you to take these principles. It's time for you today to put this into practice. It's time for you today to live the life that you were created to live. No one else can do it for you. You've got to grab the bull by the horn, so to speak. You got to move forward. Ultimately, it comes down to being responsible for what's going on in your life. Oftentimes we look outside and we say, well, if this hadn't happened, or if this hadn't happened, we got our list of terrible things, our list of tragedies, and on and on and on. None of that counts. And you go, well, wait a second. You don't know the extent, the severity of it's not important, because God did not create you. Spirit did not create you. Your expression in this one life is not dependent on what is going on outside of you. Maybe what you have self-defined as tragedy may be the very thing that life brought at you so that you could move beyond it, that you could transcend it, that you could grow spiritually, that you could grow in your livingness. And maybe you misinterpreted that as just a tragedy of life. It's past. So what? And it really is a so what, because now you can start right now and you can move forward. It's an amazing thing. God is love, a level of love that we don't even know how to begin to understand. God is everywhere present. So as we start our journey, as we recognize one life, one principle, we can call it God, right? How do we do this right now? How do we look this one life in the eye, so to speak, and say, hey, I'm on board. Hey, I'm ready. Sign me up. I want some of that. Here's the deal. We got to begin to put our day-to-day, moment-to-moment life expression in a context where, as we grow, as we utilize this, we make ourselves dependent on principle in all that we do. And that's not a bad thing. Being dependent on principle means put God first in everything, and that's not walking around in a state of piety. We're not talking about growing up, if you will, to become the Dalai Lama. That's not what it's about. It's about knowing that no matter what life brings at us, good, bad, or indifferent, we have divine principle expressing through us to experience that, to guide us through it, to guard us when necessary, to empower us as we need to go, and that we, no matter what happens, we have a bigger God. And you know, sometimes people think about when I say no matter what happens, we have a bigger God. That includes the good things, the celebrations that happen. As good as they are, as great as they are, we still have a bigger God, which means that we have bigger, greater celebrations to be had, to be experienced, to be expressed. And they await on us recognizing that for ourselves, owning that for ourselves, claiming that for ourselves. And therein was what Dr. Holmes was referencing when he said, this thing, this science of mind, this science is a science that each and every one of us can use. It's available to all. No one's limited by any, no matter what parameter, what criteria you have, there's not a person on the face of the earth that's limited. They just have to begin to know about it and then put it into practice. So we'll take our next break, and I'll see you when we come back.
Ghost Golf is Fresno's most spectacular family entertainment center. It's frightening how much fun you'll have on our 18-hole indoor haunted graveyard course. Skeletons welcome you, but watch out. All sorts of creatures may come to life. Ghost Golf is perfect for scary good parties, so book yours today. You'll get free plays at the Mummy Shooting Gallery, arcades, and air hockey. Check out our party and weekday specials online and like us on Facebook. Come play at family-friendly Ghost Golf. Good times will haunt you.
At McDermott Counseling, you will receive the highest level of care and a welcoming, safe space in which to discuss your most personal issues. Our therapists go above and beyond for you. Call 559-280-5756 or visit McDermottCounseling.com to find a caring therapist who best suits your needs. Diane Ainsworth's books of poetry and scriptures are available at CondioPress.com and as ebooks at Amazon.com. Diane hopes the words in her books will convey the unconditional love Jesus has for you. Learn more at godsinspirationsblog.wordpress.com and get a copy of Diane's books today.
Hi everyone, I am Sparkle Sujin with the Everything Sparkle Show. Tune in every Thursday live at 4 p.m. You will see people that are motivational, inspirational, inspiring, and of course entertaining. We have a great time. We learn things about how big celebrities are inspiring big names here in Fresno. Hugh Hefner is the reason we have Fresno Magazine, and Gnarly Charlie got his start because Johnny Carson told him to. So tune in, you'll learn something new and have a good time.
If your home floods, who will you call? When your house springs a leak, It's time to call Clean Master Emergency Flood Service at 559-213-9430. Clean Master will be there in 60 minutes to start fixing your home. And Clean Master bills your insurance directly, saving you the hassle because you've got enough to worry about. Clean Master also offers carpet and upholstery cleaning, carpet repair, pet odor removal, and more. Remember, Clean Master Emergency Flood Service, 559-213-9430, and visit cleanmasterflood.com.
Hi, I'm the host of New Thought Talk, Reverend Steve Walling, and I want to take a moment today and give you an opportunity to support our ministry, support our show. You can do that through a PayPal payment. You send the payment through PayPal to the email address of Madera, MADERASAC @gmail.com. If you don't have a PayPal account, you can go down below the link and you can find where you can enter a debit or credit card. I want to thank those that have supported us and those that will continue to support us. You have a great day. Bye. Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I'm your host, Reverend Steve Walling. So, using Dr. Holmes's own words from the book, The Science of Mind, the purpose of the science of mind, he says the whole purpose of the science of mind is to reconcile the apparent separation of the spiritual world, which must be perfect, with the material world, which appears imperfect. The spiritual world is the cause of the material. We are all spiritual beings governed by mental law. Only that world can appear to us which we mentally perceive. He says man's experience is the logical outcome of this inner vision. His horizon is limited to the confines of his own consciousness. Wherever the consciousness lacks a true perspective, its outward expression will lack proper harmony. This is why we are taught to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. Since no one lives by proxy, each unto himself, every individual must make the test in his own soul. Now, there's no organized religion in that statement. That wasn't a mission statement for an organized religion. That was a statement for each and every breathing, living, conscious being of humanity to take on this thing called life, place themselves in it in a way that they can express greater and higher degrees of living. That's available to, there's no one that's limited. It's available to each of us, as Jesus said, though, at the level of our belief. So as we come on board, as we decide to do this, we begin to learn, okay? He says, I want to go back here. He says, man's experience is the logical outcome of his inner vision. His horizon is limited to the confines of his own consciousness. And that's where we all start at. We're limited by the confines of our own consciousness. What does our consciousness tell us? Well, there's only so much of this and so much of that, and there's so many unfair things going on in the world, and on and on and on. And we repeat these things, and they become affirmations, and they express at ever higher, greater degrees in our life. Yes, we can look out in the world and see limitation. Yes, we can look out in the world and see where there's struggles that need to be transcended and overcome. They've always been there in humanity. And until we make that shift within ourselves to understand the greater truth of how and who and what we are, they're going to continue to express because people believe in them. They believe that limitation is there, so limitation is expressed. You know, I've touched on a little bit this thing called race consciousness. Well, race consciousness is kind of a collective of thoughts and ideas and expressions of humanity throughout our history. And there's a lot of stuff in there that's baggage that's not necessarily a good thing. But there are other good things that can be found in there. So, you know, when we find ourselves trending in thought towards fear, towards limitation, towards struggle, stop, pause. How can you be anything less than excited about your future if you own your sonship to the divine principles, to God? If you own your expression as God expressing as you. In the moment, there may be things to be overcome. In the moment, you may look around and see somewhat of a bleak landscape, okay? And oftentimes in New Thought, we're told, to accept the abundance and act as if. In the moment, that can be a little bit tough. But when we begin to put principle as habit in our mind, our ability to perceive the horizon, the greater good, the expression, begins to unfold in our life. And it's one of those things when we begin to seek to see the good in where we're at, we're going to find the good where we're at. No matter what our struggles may be, whether they're financial struggles, whether they're struggles with our ability to express ourselves, whether they're struggles in relationship, whether they're struggles in employment, in education, in understanding, in anything that you may conceive of, there's nothing that you can conceive of that is so uniquely yours that is beyond the capacity of divine principle to transcend that. And there you are. Grab that ring, if you will, as you go by. Begin to work on it. We make statements within ourselves about what the truth is, and we continue to affirm those statements. We begin to see how, as we affirm those statements, as we make them a part of our consciousness, how they begin to express, maybe in little ways, maybe in great ways. When you begin to move beyond that, particularly if you happen to be someone that has studied religious science of mind, you're part of the CSL organization or whatever, and you understand what affirmative treatment is, affirmative prayer, you understand the power of that, the power not only to express in your life, but the power to help others express in their lives if they seek that out from you. That's what Dr. Holmes taught. That's what he wanted to see, grow in the world, because as that grows, the world grows spiritually. As the world grows spiritually, greater good, greater things are expressed, and there's a greater world to be experienced by all, even those that are not necessarily part of this understanding. It's okay. There's no secret club or limitation, and good is not kept to one group. It's spread universally because we're all one. We're all part of the divine principle. We love God with all that we are. We also love ourselves with all that we are, and we are God expressing as us. And in that understanding of that one life, and that's why, I spent the time that I have on really kind of drilling down one life of which we're not segmented, we're not apart from. We are an expression of in an infiniteness that doesn't diminish, that doesn't go away, that can't be limited. One life. That life is God, that life is perfect. And that life is expressed as our life right here and now. Claim it, own it. Seek to see it expressed in your life with the belief that it will be. And it's amazing what can happen. As I said a little while back, that New Thought in the beginning of the 20th century began to grow, and we grew quite a bit. And then kind of some of what we taught began to be included in mainstream, if you will, including mainstream forms of other spiritual teachings, beliefs, under the guise of prosperity gospel. And I'm not diminishing someone that if they teach it and you are on board with that, embody it, own it, and express it. However it is that you can relate to it. Just because, it's in a different organization, we're still teaching the same basic principles. Put into practice in your life, you create a greater life for yourself. You take nothing from anybody, and you express a greater good, if you will, in the world. And it's an interesting thought to think about. one life, right? And this life, it never ceases. And we talked earlier about how it has never ceased since it began to express itself. But what it has done is it has continued to expand and expand through each and every living being, each and every living expression. And as it expands through us as our life experience and others, it expands, it grows. There's no limitation. There's one life. It makes no difference how we seek to make that expansion happen. That's our purpose for being there. You know, if you have concerns about what's going on in the world, start to change the world by changing yourself. And it's amazing how, as we begin to change ourselves, the world around us changes. There's nothing that you can bring to the table. No list of grievances, no list of limitations, no list of horrible projected futures. There's nothing that is too big for the divine principle, that's too big for God. But you got to know that there's one life. That life is God. That life is perfect. That life is our life now. We're going to take our last break. We're going to come back and we'll finish out.
Pour yourself a glass of Crybaby wine, available at the market and Sam's Italian Deli. And remember to ask for Crybaby wine at your favorite restaurant.
Call PG's Catering for all your special occasions. Available to cook any variety of foods and desserts that will leave your taste buds wanting more. Call 559-558-2682 and follow Peaches on Instagram and Facebook. Are you or a member of your family beginning to show early signs of forgetfulness that may be Alzheimer's or dementia? The only way to be sure is through an expensive brain scan. Dr. Parminder Bhatia of the Neuropain Medical Center is helping in a clinical trial for those with memory problems, dementia, or mild Alzheimer's disease. Those accepted into the trial will have all costs paid for, from diagnosis to evaluations and trial medicine. There is no cost for those who are accepted in the trial, and there may even be some compensation for the patient's time and travel. For more information, call 559-437-9700, extension 310, and visit neuropain.com.
Are you thinking of selling your home? Since 2004, the Souza Group, brokered by eXp Realty, has specialized in premier property listings and sales located in the Clovis Unified and North Fresno markets. The Souza Group will do their best to exceed your expectations. Visit clovisunifiedhomes.com. Visit the beautiful city of Exeter and visit exeterchamber.com. The Chamber's mission is to promote, support, and enable Exeter to prosper, creating a strong local economy, promoting community, and providing networking opportunities. Follow the Chamber on Facebook and Twitter, or give the Chamber a call at 559-592-2919.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Walling. So, talking about this concept of ever-expansive good spreading that is spread individually through and by each and every one of us. So, you got up this morning, life was tough. You know, you ran into a wall, life's tough. You got more bills than what you feel that you can deal with, life's tough. But life isn't tough in that sense. But we make it tough by affirming that. It's a shift in consciousness that when we first get started, maybe we're a little tenuous with that. But as we begin to make that shift within ourselves, no matter what has happened, no matter what the day has brought, we can find the peace within ourselves that heretofore we didn't even recognize as being there. But you've got to understand, you've got to know that it's there in order to go looking for it, if you will. If you just look out at the world and you see whatever it is to be afraid of in the world, that's what the world is going to give you more of. That's where conscious beings interact with the world. You know, animals in nature, you know, whether they're predators or prey, regardless of what is, this is where humanity has made the big shift, if you will, and has uplifted itself, risen above that, with the ability to become aware of our I am beingness, that we are, I am. Being able to think in abstract terms opens up the door for us to be able to recognize spirituality, to have the ability to believe and to accept beliefs begins to build an inner strength within ourselves. If we refuse to do that because we're tied to, you know, some other type of belief or whatever, then we're limited by that. Look around and see what life is giving you today. And if you are excited about today, if you are in this day and feel like life just can't get any better than this, knowing that it's going to get better, it's going to move beyond that, okay? If you're not there, you can be. That's available to each and every one of us. But it starts with first recognizing, even if we just start on an intellectual level, you know, we make a thought, we make a choice, and we begin there. If you were told when you didn't know how to ride a bicycle that you could ride a bicycle, and you got on it and you fell off, if you gave up at that point because you didn't know how and you couldn't learn, then you don't know how to ride a bicycle. But if you go back and you continuously go back and work on it, now that's a pretty simplistic metaphor, but it's true nonetheless. You know, we've got to take those first steps and then back those first steps, continue to move forward. If you are unable to do it by yourself, seek out a group of like-minded people. If you're part of a spiritual organization that can help you, that offers classes, seek out those classes. Move forward. Don't accept here and now as being what is, as the only what is. But if you've given up hope, if you've given up, you know, the concept that the change that needs to take place is not outside of you, but is the change that needs to take place within you to open up to that which already is there waiting to be expressed through you, you can develop hope. Through hope, you can develop growth. Through growth, you can develop feedback, faith, belief, and you move beyond that. There's one life. I started this out a couple of weeks ago with this, there's one life. I've tried to enlighten and share some understanding of this, not just as a spiritual thought of one life, but as a recognition that there is one life. Just like there is light energy, there's electrical energy, there's life energy, and that life energy exists at varying degrees of consciousness. And through humanity, it's hit right now its highest level of consciousness, and that's a level of consciousness where that self-recognizing life can go back upon itself and recognize the truth of what it is and have the ability through its own consciousness and thought to put that truth into practice, into play in their life to create higher and greater degrees of livingness. That's kind of where we're at. But we got to know that it starts and it ends within us. Our happiness is here, not out there. Yeah, we can get a new car, and aren't we excited about the new car or whatever else? But that new car is going to go away. It's going to be an old car at some point. The whatever else is going to deteriorate. The truth can't. The truth never goes away, and the truth is always available. But the truth is something that we can't find outside of ourselves. And we don't know it until we experience it. And we can't experience it if we don't begin to seek to put it into practice, into play in our day-to-day life experience. Shortly before my last Sunday's talk at the Spiritual Awareness Center, I came across an article, and it's not important where, but the subject of the article was about sadness and happiness. The individual was talking about in his life how sadness had permeated. In his marriage, how sadness had permeated. How he and his wife, his partner, sought ways outside of themselves to create that happiness. And at every level, it seemingly fell short until, and he realized and recognized this, until he went way outside of himself to what he said. He went to God, and he saw God as being outside of himself. Now, is that important? Because it teaches the divine principle, God, as something other than I understand it, I believe it? Not really. Because the bottom line is this individual realized that when he and his wife, made that shift, they turned to God, however they defined God, that they found that that's where happiness nested. Well, if you believe that God exists within you, if you believe that God is your inner expression of this thing called life, if you believe that there's one life, that life is God, that life is perfect, that life is your life now, that's where you turn, okay? Dogmatically, theologically, whatever you want, philosophically, it doesn't make any difference how you define it, okay? I have nothing to argue with you about this. I have no relationship with you about this. All I can truly do is accept how you define the divine, how you define God. And then as you define God, you bring that definition and you put it into practice in your life. Now, does that mean you go within and make that connection? As I understand it, however it works for you, having that relationship and putting that relationship as the centerpiece of your life experience. Just because it doesn't fit what's written here textually doesn't mean that it doesn't fit what's written in the universe in this one life, because that's where our relationship is. That's where we are. That's where we express. And when we realize that, when we put that into practice, our life experience is dependent upon no one. Our life experience is not dependent upon any outward conditions. Our life experience is dependent upon one thing: how we seek to build, understand, and express our relationship with one life. There's one life. That life is perfect. That life is our life now. And as we open, as we seek to express, as we grow our faith, as we build our belief, as we increase our intention and increase our expectation and increase our acceptance of the divine, the fire of life that exists within each and every one of us, expressing at higher and greater degrees in our life will grow. It's awesome. I want to thank you for being with us this last couple weeks as we've discussed this thing called life, this one life. I hope you've learned something. You can always reach out and get a hold of me. The email, I think, is on the banner down below. I always enjoy answering questions, making connections with individuals. I enjoy feedback. Topics, if there's a topic that you would like me to discuss at some point in time. We're going to, I think, with the show next week, we're going to start, because this has been a topic that I've been working on. Let's see if I can find the book here. Here it is. The book was originally titled This Thing Called Life by Ernest Holmes. It's been republished with the title The Art of Life. I don't think it makes much difference what you call it. But we're going to take a look at how Dr. Holmes, as he taught this thing called life, taught it in his book. So I'll see you next week. You can always go to YouTube. Gosh, we got like something like 200 YouTubes out there now. You can go. There's all sorts of stuff. You can see how the show's evolved over the years that we've been around. And again, if you have questions, get a hold of me. I thank you for being with us, and I'll see you when we come back. As you go through the week, know the light of God surrounds you, the love of God enfolds you, the power of God protects you, the presence of God watches over you. Wherever you are, God is there, and all is well. See you next time.